Thank you for watching Conscious Consumer Network. The live stream broadcast is free to view. You can pause and rewind live broadcasts to catch up, or view shows at a later date by accessing our free archives of all shows. Check out our broadcast guide to see what's on. You can show your support by donating to our network support fund. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or subscribe to the monthly newsletter for updates. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.
I'm Cassidy, and this is my sister Caitlin. I'm 15 and she's 18. And we're here today in Kyoto, Japan, and we're going to talk to you about the refugee crisis. And, okay, well, first we're going to tell you a little bit about ourselves. We grew up in Italy, in Rome and Venice, and since 2013, we've been traveling the world full-time and world schooling. And if you don't know what that is, it's learning on the road and just learning as you go about your surroundings, the world. And so we're originally from the U.S., probably you can tell from our accents, but only last year did we discover the true meaning of like volunteering, just getting involved with helping the world, and we actually started our own charity, and that's also what we're going to talk to you about today. And our charity is really just about engaging youth and other young global citizens and getting involved and just trying to make the world a better place through volunteering, advocacy, friendship, and just kindness, and really trying to change the world through youth.
Yeah. So before we start talking about our volunteer experiences and the refugee crisis, a great way for us to really put ourselves in these refugees' shoes is to do this sort of imagination game that we've created, and it really just helps us to think about what they've been through and everything. So imagine one day all of a sudden, so you're at home, you're on your computer, you're reading a book, whatever it may be, and you hear this huge explosion outside. Your parents come running in like, we have to leave our city right now. They say, like, let's say, for example, you've got 5 minutes to pack up all of your stuff. You can only take what you can carry. So decide what you would bring. So what would you bring? It's a hard question.
Yeah.
Because what would you bring if you could only bring what you could carry? And so imagine now you've left your home. There's a good chance you're never going to see all of your stuff or your home again. You've walked miles and miles through your country trying to find safety, and you've finally arrived at a border when all of a sudden the border, let's say police or guards, say, no, you can't come here. You can't come to this country. You have to turn around. You have to go back home. But you know for a fact that maybe your home's gone or you can't get back into your city. So imagine you have to now cross this border illegally, which means not through a border crossing, but maybe in the mountains or forests or crossing rivers.
Yeah.
And so imagine now you've crossed through the mountains on the border, and it's dark, but you forgot to bring a blanket with you.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you didn't have enough space to bring a blanket.
Or you weren't
and it's
expecting
cold.
to go hiking through the mountains.
Well, how would you keep warm? Would you start a fire? That's what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
But then maybe the border guards will see you. So what else? How else would you stay warm? So now you've finally gotten to this country. You crossed that border. It's been maybe days or even months of hiking and hiking. And finally you reach, let's say, the coast. Let's say this country you've been traveling in. You reach the coast, right? And you want to continue on to the next country. Maybe this country too isn't safe. But instead of crossing, just getting on a normal boat, imagine doing it illegally. Maybe you can't swim. You have to get onto a small boat that there's a good chance of sinking. What if you knew that if you got into this boat, there was a good chance that you might not make it to the other side? Would you go? Or would you not? Would you stay behind? Would you let your family go ahead? Or would you risk it anyway? Now, let's say you actually got to this other country across the water. You made it safely. Your boat didn't sink. And all of a sudden, you think you're so close to just that freedom, to a new life, to starting your life over again, maybe going to school again.
Yeah.
You're so close. And you've left everything you know behind. And all of a sudden, let's say the people there are mistreating you. They're saying horrible things about you. They throw you in some camp or some place. They make you sleep on the streets. They don't give you food. They just make you feel like you're not human anymore. Imagine the feeling of not being treated like you were in your home country, or people not treating you right because you're different or a different religion. And for us, I mean, it's just, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
So imagine just all of these different scenarios and really try and put yourself in these experiences, because this exact experience and these different stories are real stories of refugees. They're real stories of people we know, people we've met. They're just some of the many and many experiences that they actually have to go through. So, so how exactly did we start? Did everything start?
Yeah.
So it's a pretty
It's a long story.
a pretty big story. So our first ever experience, just getting to know refugees or meeting people from Syria, from the Middle East, was in Turkey. So in, September 2015,
Yes.
we were traveling with our family through Eastern Europe. And all of a sudden, we heard the news about the little boy, Aylan Kurdi.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a little boy from Syria that washed up on the shore, actually, in a town that we know very well in Turkey, because his boat had capsized and he unfortunately had drowned. And he was only 2 years old, and he washed up on the shore in Turkey. And it was all over the news. It made lots of people really realize the reality of the refugee crisis. So we heard about this news while we were in Europe, and we felt so attached to this situation because we knew the town where this had happened, and we had been there many times. We had many friends there. So we just felt like we had to do something. So a couple days later, we changed our plans.
Yeah, and we changed everything.
We changed our plans. And we flew to Turkey 2-3 days after that had happened. And we just wanted to really make a difference somewhere. So at the time, we didn't have a charity. we didn't really know what we were doing. We just went with this thought of like, let's try and see what we can do. And it was actually a life-changing experience, really.
Yes. Do you want to tell a story about the guy at the beach?
Yeah. So we actually went to go visit the beach, the exact spot where that had happened, where they found Isla and Curdy.
To like lay flowers and to just kind of give them a memorial.
So obviously they didn't want to give the exact location of where it had happened. It was sort of, no one really wanted to give the exact location of this beach because it was sort of in a remote area. So we just started driving out to the area where we knew it had happened. We weren't quite sure where it was. We were kind of lost. And we really just wanted to give a memorial sort of to this boy, but we couldn't find where it was. So we stopped at this beach with many tourists there, sunbathing, there were water sports, all that sort of stuff. And we walked up to this man who was working there, this Turkish man, and we said, excuse me, do you know where the beach is where they found Isla and Curdy about a week ago? And he said, oh my gosh, are you journalists? Very standoffish, like, are you journalists? And we said, no, we're just normal family, and we just want to pay our respects to this boy and commemorate him. And immediately when he heard that we were just normal people, we weren't the press or anything, he just let his guard down completely, and he's like, thank you so much for doing this, for coming and trying to find this place and remembering him. And anyway, he actually was one of the people that originally found him, as well as other people that washed up on the shore that were in that same boat. And he just told us the story of his experience and seeing this, and just said, seeing you as a family doing something out here, doing something, he said it gives me faith in humanity, restored my faith in humanity. And that was just sort of this moment where we're like, wow, we didn't realize what we were doing could be so important to someone. Anyway, so he told us the directions, we found the beach, and we laid down flowers, and we made signs, and that was really a moment where we realized that we could do something, and we had to do something sort of at that point. So after we found many families that were living on the streets in Bodrum.
On the ground. Bodrum's the city. And they'd have a blanket on the ground on the side of the street, and they were like families with just like newborn babies just laying there like on the side of the street, and they weren't asking for money. They were just sitting there because that's the only place that they could go to. And we were actually walking by when a policeman was like yelling at them and telling them to get off the street, and they didn't know what to do. And we actually had a Turkish Arabic speaking friend with us, and he was trying to communicate with the police and trying to figure things out. And in the end, the family, they're okay now. But it was just really heartbreaking to see these families on the street, and being a family ourselves, because we travel with our mom and our dad and our little brother, and seeing them on the street and without like anything, it was just very sad.
So we, after realizing that there were so many families living on the streets like this, we decided to raise some money from family and friends, and we were able to give quite a few supplies to families that we had met, and we kept going back to see. We even bought like 3 strollers for like 3 different couples with like newborn babies. So that was great, because before they were carrying their babies in one hand and all of their belongings that they had with them in the other on their backs. So the stroller was great for them. That was a big moment. We also took the same family that we bought the strollers for. We took them out to lunch. So they probably hadn't been to actual restaurant in a long time. And so they were so shocked to like buy their own meal and eat what they wanted and not what was given to them by like handouts or by volunteers or organizations. And so they were so happy to eat what they wanted and to be served by a waiter and all that stuff. So that was fun. So after about, a month of volunteering, meeting many different families all over the city, we decided we wanted to start sort of an organization. We wanted to expand this idea of helping people beyond just our family, but make it something bigger. So that's when we really came up with the idea of our charity, Kids Unite for Hope. Initially, it was called Kids Unite for Syria. We never thought it'd become what it is today. Instead, it was just to help these refugees that we had met. So Kids Unite for Syria was initially supposed to help refugee families and kids. Now, obviously, it's much bigger than that. So that was sort of how it started. After that experience, we also had another sort of moving experience in Morocco. We volunteered with Project SOAR, which is an incredible nonprofit out in a little town outside of Marrakesh in Morocco. So we did a creative arts sort of workshop with the girls. So Project SOAR empowers these girls in this village to just be courageous, to be strong, to reach for their dreams,
to go to school,
to go to school, to get an education, to go out into the world and just live up to their full potential. Yeah. And so we were so happy meeting these girls. They were so amazing. Yeah. And so we did this art workshop with them, and so that was just really fun. I mean, we were kind of nervous at first because it was like our first sort of speech workshop type thing. But it was a great learning experience for us, and that's when we realized that we loved doing this. We loved volunteering, we loved others, inspiring kids, and helping others. And then our most memorable, I guess you can say, experience was volunteering in Greece, which is where you can kind of come in.
Well, speaking on behalf of myself, I wasn't that much of a humanitarian and, activist before I actually had this experience in Greece, which I'm going to tell you about now. And it just really changed me. So we had planned to go to Athens, Greece for 2 weeks to just kind of volunteer around. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know about any organizations that were doing other things there or any refugee camps that we could go help in. We didn't have any contacts with volunteers, so we just showed up there kind of without any clue of what to do. Okay. And we were staying in the port of Piraeus, which is this huge port, the port of Athens. Mm-hmm. And there's a big makeshift refugee camp there. Mm-hmm. And we went there the first day. We arrived in Greece, and I was kind of turned off by the idea. I was just kind of like,
you were like, no, I don't want to.
I want to go shopping. Come on, let's go look at dogs. But we went there, and it wasn't really what I expected. The kids just immediately ran up to us, seeing that we were volunteers, and they were like, oh, look at their blonde hair, you know? They were like hugging us and just having fun with us, and we were like, wow, look at these cute little girls. One of them gave us their juice box. They're like,
we didn't even know where to take this.
Take this. Take my bracelet. And we're like, you want me to take your bracelet? Like, oh, how sweet. And it was then we realized how generous these little kids were, and even without knowing you, they were just embracing you and loving you. They were just craving.
That was like our first day.
Affection. It was our first day, and all these kids just came up to us and were just, they were so affectionate. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I love this job. I want to keep doing this. So I was like, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. But so we started going back every day, slowly kept going. But one of the things that really seemed to annoy us were the bad conditions in the camp, because it was something that I also never expected to see. It was dirty, it was in a port, and it was just, they were laying on cement, and they were in tents, and all they had was a blanket, and then they'd sleep on a blanket inside a tent. And it was so sad to see them like this. And the bathrooms, they had about how many, 10 bathrooms total. For 1,000 people. Yeah. And they were just they weren't even bathrooms. They were the porta potty, the portable ones. And so it was just shocking to see this. And also the showers, they would have these container type things, and they were just how many, 4 showers? 4 or 5, 4 showers for girls and 4 showers for boys. Mm-hmm. And it was cold water. Our friends, or the little kids would come up and say, it was really cold this morning. The water was really cold. And we're like, oh, I'm so sorry. You can't do anything about it. Yeah. And, another thing was the food. Oh. The food was really bad.
The majority of the times, the food that was brought to them was already out of date or really moldy. The meat, majority of the times, was raw.
And they would feed them these pasta, this they used to call it macarona. That's in Arabic, they'd call it macarona. And they would come up to us, macarona, and they really did not like macarona. Yeah. They wanted their own food from their own country, and so they were really just kind of down about that, but they still they pursued what they wanted to, and they were kind and generous, even throughout this. But we stayed there for a total of how many months?
We were there about, 4 months, I think? Yeah.
4 months, and then we came back this year. But anyways, we were there for like 4 months, and we started to get to know these kids, kind of teens and kids. And as we just started to get to know them, we started realizing that they had a lot of trauma, and it was a very traumatic experience, all of it for them. Escaping the war,
Turkey,
everything,
boats.
And the boats, they were so traumatized. And once we took, how many times? About like 10 times we took a bunch of kids, like 10 to 15 kids to the beach.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time we took them there, and half the kids would just go into the water and just like jump right in.
Yay!
And the other half of the kids were like, oh my gosh, water. They were like, water? Like they were really
scared.
They were scared of the water because of what happened when they were crossing on the boats. They were just like traumatized. They were really traumatized from the experience of crossing from Greece to Turkey, from Turkey to Greece. And we started realizing how, they were really traumatized. And they would fight in the camps. They would steal. They would just, for nothing. They would see, I don't know, a volunteer would come with hair gel. Hey guys, you want some hair gel? And they'd be like, I want it. And they would start fighting. Yeah. But the trauma really showed, and not only fighting, but stealing. They would just steal little treats from the thing. Just here, take one.
The feeling of despair in these kids and in this camp was just everywhere. It was so evident.
You could totally see it.
They hadn't, for months and even years, they hadn't had a normal life where they knew that at every meal there would be food, or there would be a bed at night, or there would be safety that next day. And so just anything, that feeling of necessity and despair and desperation grew so fast with anything.
Anything.
And so we realized that they were just so traumatized by everything they had been through. Yeah. They were so young, and their childhoods had just been taken away from them pretty much. And it just hurt us so much. So many of our friends that we got to know later had this feeling of abandonment,
depression. They were constantly depressed. They had a lot of depression and the feeling of being abandoned and just sadness. And they would come up to us some days and we'd be like, hey, how are you? And they'd be like, I'm sad. They would just be completely truthful and be like, really sad, I'm not happy. And
their lives were just torn apart.
They lost everything. They not only did they lose their belongings, their homes, their childhood memories, but their friends sometimes. And they have stories of parents,
their brothers,
or people that died in the war, and it's just so sad. And this guilt lives with them. It's the sadness, and it sometimes shows, sometimes it doesn't, but. It was just sad to see him like this, and we actually had some friends that were just really depressed, and some of them tried to take their own lives, and they never actually died, and they never actually they never actually took their own lives, but they were so depressed that they were going to, and they were it was really sad being around these kids and seeing them all happy sometimes, and then really sad others, But we tried to help, and we started actually some English classes.
Yes,
and we did fun activities. So do you want to talk about this?
Initially when we got to the port camp, we didn't quite know really what to do. We were just sort of playing with the kids. We managed to get some supplies, some jump ropes, some balls, different things like that. And then after we found in the camp sort of this. What was it, a makeshift school, I guess you can say, a charity, they did a sort of a school, where they had crafts and little activities, played things had jump rope, played tag, things like that, and that's puzzles. Sort of, lots of puzzles, and that's sort of where all the kids in the camp flocked, so there were thousands of kids there, in the camp total, so, on a daily basis, there were maybe 100 and something kids there, in the afternoon and things like that. And so we started to help there. So we played with the kids, we did art with the kids, things like that.
Volleyball.
And then a couple weeks into it, there was this volunteer who had been doing English classes with like 4 or 5 kids. And she was leaving soon, and she needed someone to take over and continue the English classes.
Yeah.
So we thought, oh, okay, well, let's see if we can do it. So before she left, we attended one of the classes, and we really wanted to do it. We wanted to make more of a difference. We wanted to teach these kids something. We wanted to give them skills, more than just playing or coloring, but something that they could really carry with them into the future. So we thought English classes,
And
perfect.
math classes,
English, yeah. So this volunteer left, and we took over with some of the teenagers.
And they were like 5 kids. They were like 5.
And then
4.
about in the course of maybe 2 weeks of us doing this every single day, more and more kids kept coming, and we had about 3 different classes going each day with like 15 kids each class. So we had a lot of notebooks, a lot of kids, a lot of pencils, a lot of supplies. So we had sort of a space in a building nearby next to the camp that we would do these classes in. So they had, chairs and table that they could work on or whatever. So we would kind of switch off, the different roles. So she would do the teenage group one day, I did the little kids, and then we'd switch.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was hard, I think, teaching. It was an amazing experience, but sometimes it was hard because of all the different age levels.
And the language was
barrier. And another thing, that since these kids are refugees and they have escaped war, many of them hadn't been to school in like 4 or 5 years, sometimes even more than that.
Yeah.
So they were teenagers, some 15, 16-year-olds. One kid couldn't read and write in his own language, and the other kid was, excelling in algebra, and they were the same age. And that, because maybe the one kid's school was bombed, or it was too dangerous to go to school, or he was in a camp in a different country longer, or most of his childhood. So it was really hard for us to see all the different age levels and realize that so many of these kids had missed out on so much of their education.
Yeah.
But I guess it was in a way more inspiring too to bring that education back when we realized that they were so longing for it.
Yeah. And also what was really cool about doing the English classes was that when we would teach them English, we would just kind of like take a chalkboard or something and be like, this is a hat, and draw a hat. And they'd be like, hat, and, or draw little stick people with their little hats on. But then they'd point to it, and they'd be like, whatever it is, oh, look, that's hat. And then they'd say it in Arabic, and be like, oh, wow, thank you, because they're teaching you at the same time that you're teaching them. And it's cool because we learned a lot of, Arabic.
We learned a lot of Arabic.
Yeah, and it was really cool because when you taught them, they would teach you, and also the Arabic writing. We learned Arabic writing because the kids would walk up there and be like, oh, car, sayyada, and they'd write sayyada down.
Yeah.
In Arabic, like, wow,
yeah,
cool.
And so everything we did was like double language. It was like, okay, I'm going to teach you this word, and you teach me that word. And so, that was fun. And it was just amazing that we had so many kids coming, and they loved coming. It was like, some kids told us it was like the highlight of their day.
Yeah.
And so they learned actually quite a bit of English. Like even at the beginning, we could barely communicate with some of the kids that we met or that were coming to these English classes. And by sort of the end of the couple months, 2 or 3 months, we were having full conversations, talking about their story, talking about Syria, talking about their families in English and our broken Arabic. So we were kind of confused at the beginning of why these kids kept coming and coming.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, maybe it's the math. Maybe they like algebra. Maybe they like English. Maybe they're learning English. Maybe they like all that sort of stuff. And then later we realized that it really wasn't what we were teaching. It was the way that we were teaching them. They were teaching us, but also that they had sort of a space they could come and they could be themselves. They could be just who they are as people. They weren't labeled anymore as refugee or Syrian or different from us. All these different labels that
society
the world,
the world
put on refugees. And so they would come to this place and they would hang out with all of their friends, right? So they're all teens, sort of in a circle around the table, chatting. We'd take selfies, laugh, tell jokes. They could just be themselves joke around, and then talk about their experiences, talk about life at the camp with each other. And it was just a place where they could come and completely feel comfortable and free. And also, I think because a lot of them were our same ages, or like teenagers, so like 13, 14,
15.
So we were all like 12 to, maybe 18. And so there was no pressure of having an adult there. They could just be themselves and completely relaxed without having sort of this adult, watching them or teaching them. It wasn't really a relationship of like, okay, I'm the teacher, you're the student, but more like just almost friends, like friends tutoring a friend or something, like friend helping a friend out with homework. It was more that dynamic than anything.
Well, also I think that a lot of these kids, the boys and girls, all have this big, like, a lot of pressure on them because all of their older siblings usually and their dads go off to their Germany or Spain or wherever they plan on going to for work before the family left Syria. So these teenagers are just carrying so much pressure on them because they have to take care of their family, take care of their moms, all their siblings, and it's just a lot of pressure on these kids. And I think that when they met us and they came to our classes and just had that space to be themselves, they felt like all that pressure just got lifted off.
They loved coming.
They
it was so fun.
Even the little kids, like 3
they used
or 4-year-olds,
they used to
like,
follow their siblings and like sneak. Can we be in the class? We're like, no, sorry. But that's what we did in class for little kids later, and they loved that. I mean, I remember just being at the space where we worked doing crafts, and they just come up like madrasa, school, madrasa, every morning. It was like school, and we loved seeing that. And so what started out just as like English classes slowly grew to like sort of this deep friendship with this group of kids, this certain group of kids.
We really connected with this group, and we did a lot of activities with them, not only English and math classes, but we took them, like I said, to the beach. Yeah. And we took them, where did we take them? Out into the center of Athens. They really liked that.
That was so fun. Yeah.
And, but yeah, we were just treating them like normal teens would, going out, getting some ice cream, or taking them out to like a cafe and ordering some pizza. It was like really just being themselves. And we also set up some soccer games for the kids, and so we this other group came, and this American group, and they set up like this type of soccer game makeshift in the port, and they got these huge soccer goals and
like professional
soccer,
not professional,
okay
ones,
and they brought like a speaker and a microphone and jerseys for them to wear, like these over jersey things, and both the boys and the girls were really excited about it, and we did that about how many? 3 times?
Quite a few.
And they absolutely love Barcelona and Madrid. And so they would fight over, I want Barcelona, I want to be Messi, I want to be Ronaldo, you know. And that was really great for these kids because they got to play soccer, and they're all really good at soccer.
Yeah.
And because they have so much free time to play, and
they're so passionate about soccer.
Yeah, they're very passionate. And so even some girls played, and it was really funny because there's a little story on that. The boys initially everyone divided into 2 teams, right? And then the girls wanted to join too, and we said, of course, go play, of course.
We didn't really think much about it.
Yeah, we're like, oh, yeah, of course girls play. Because I was actually thinking of playing, but then I didn't. And the boys were like, no, we don't want any girls, no. And we're like, what? Like us being girls, they were like, seriously? And they're like, no, we don't want to play with them on our team. So one team was very against it, and the other team was like, oh, sure, come on our team. So the team that opposed to it was like, okay, we're boycotting. So they sat down on the side. They were like, we're not leaving. And we're like, okay, you aren't. And so we ended up playing the soccer game without those
And some of the girls from the other group that was joining
the American group,
they played to fill sort of the gap. So one of this really good volunteer, she plays soccer at university, right? Yeah, in Florida at university. So she's really, really good. And anyway, so she played on the team
with the girls
to replace the boys that boycotted. So it was pretty much all girls against the other team. And yeah, the girls team won.
And well, once the boys that boycotted saw that
the girls
were actually winning, they're like, oh,
okay, we
gotta play, we gotta go beat them. And in the end, they didn't, because they were really close. They did a shootout, and they were like back and forth. And the girl that was really good, she was like, finally made the last goal, and they're like, no, the girl beat us, and we're like, yeah.
So the soccer game, I mean, they love being in an organized sport.
Yeah.
I think that was really what made the soccer game so fun and incredible. The structure of having, like, okay, this is my team, and this is my position. I'm goalie, I'm this, I'm that. And having the jerseys, having a team name, having a number. We even set up, like, on the jerseys, like, a number. Of course, they all wanted to be Messi. But
what was Messi's number?
Like 10, I think. 10.
Yeah, 10.
So they all wanted to be the same number. But it was just so amazing to see how happy they were. I mean, this one kid even told us after he played goalie in Syria, and that was on an official soccer team when he was younger, and he hadn't played official soccer in many years. And so he played goalie the whole time. And then after, at the end of the game, he's like, I haven't been this happy since I was in Syria, like a couple of years ago. And that was just almost an honor for us. Like, it was really so amazing to hear that.
Yeah.
Just knowing that we had created that, and it was such a life-changing experiences. That whole time, we created such a bond with these kids. I mean, we did like also dance parties. And
they loved singing. Loved Justin Bieber. They really liked Justin Bieber. Very passionate. And Rihanna.
Yeah, they were they were so much like us. It was weird. I mean, we created such deep friendships with them, and after even like the first month or so, we kind of forgot. I think we forgot sort of their past and their situation, and I think they slowly started to forget as well. When we were all hanging out, and they were hanging out with their friends, with us, just sort of felt like a bunch of teenagers just being normal kids, being normal teens. Without just all the trauma and stuff of the war and the situation. So now we're going to show you a quick video of all of these fun and amazing experiences. So we hope you enjoy it.
Are you happy? Yes. We're very grateful. Oh, I like this one. Oh no.
And, well, as we got to know these kids, we started to learn more about their stories and about their past, and they started opening up to us. And they started telling us these really sad and really emotional stories about their trips and what they did to just kind of get to where we actually met them. And, well, so one of our friends, his name was Ali, but he did this, like, robot dance, like, it was really cool. So we called him Robot Ali, because there were lots of Alis.
That comes more natural.
Yeah, Robot Ali. So Robot Ali was from Syria.
Yeah.
Which city?
Dara. South, yeah.
And he had a really tragic story. He actually told us one night we were on the bus, and he was like, "Oh, well, can I tell you my life story?" And we're like, "Yeah,
yes,
of course," you know. And he started off by saying that, well, his family, they're Syrian, and after the war started, his family went up to Germany for work because there was no work in Syria, and so he went up to Germany for work. The dad.
Yeah.
And Ali at the time had how many brothers and sisters? He has, well, how many?
Now he's got 6 or 7. I'm not quite sure.
Six
other siblings.
6 other siblings.
Something like that. Yeah.
And they all went to Jordan.
Yeah.
To a refugee camp in Jordan because Syria wasn't safe. And Ali did not like it in Jordan. He was just, like, really depressed because he wanted his country. He wanted to be in his country with his friends at his school. So his mom told him that he could go stay with his uncle in Syria, in his city, and he could go to school and have his normal life back, but his family would be in Jordan. And when Ali was in Syria again, at his school got bombed.
Yeah,
right on his school, and the whole school collapsed. And he was one of the only survivors.
Yeah, I remember him telling us how he climbed out of the rubble. Like, he just on his own, he was like, okay, I'm just going to get out of here.
And all of his friends and his girlfriend and everyone that he really cared about in his school and teachers, everyone was just under the rubble, and they died, and it was so sad. He was telling us this with, like, tears in his eyes, and he still wears this necklace that his best friend gave him, and it has, like, a scorpion, and his best friend gave it to him, and he was one of the people who died in the school, and it was just so sad to see. We actually saw how affectionate he was to this necklace the whole time, and to have him reveal that it was his best friend, it was, like, really emotional. And after that, the family and him decided to go up to Germany to go visit, to finally be relocated with the dad. And because it had been years since they'd actually lived together with the dad. So they started their journey through Turkey. But another story that I want to tell you about in Syria was our friend Ahmed. And he has 1 brother and 3 sisters. One of the sisters is still there. And right now they're in Spain. But he told us about the story of how he was out on the balcony one day, and I don't know what he was doing. He was just looking out at the balcony, and his mom actually, like, told him to come in. Like, she's like, "Ahmed, come in. You have to come in," like, rushing him. And he's like, what's wrong? And she had to pull him inside, and right as that happened, they, like, ducked, and the whole balcony just, like, exploded because there was a bomb next door. And they were just like, he was like, "Oh my gosh." And the mom, luckily the mom heard it coming, and intuition. I don't know, she just, and he was really lucky. But stories like this kind of, like, you're like,
catch you off guard.
Yeah, they do catch you off guard. You're like it's hard.
It was so hard.
It was really hard for us to already have known these kids, and then to picture them in a situation like this, and to really think of them like that. And it was just sad to maybe think that, what if something bad happened to them? I mean, what if we never met them? I mean, and it was really sad and traumatic. I can't imagine how depressed they were, to hear these. But as they kept going on our journey, another one of our friends, Aled, they all start with A, so it's kind of, confused. But,
you'll remember. Anyone with A,
He actually was, he was also from Syria, and him and his family were going away from the city. They were from Aleppo,
Mm-hmm.
and they went out in a car. So
They
the
made it
family,
to the
they made it to
border.
before they made it to the border, they had a checkpoint, and the checkpoint policemen were like, "Hey, where are you going?" And they had to sneak, and they said, "Oh, we're going to visit our uncle that's in that city over there." And he's like, "Oh, okay." So he let him
Yeah,
go,
they made it through.
and they were like, he told us that they were so scared because he has a little brother,
Mm-hmm.
2 sisters, and his mom with him. His dad and his older brother are in Germany. But they were sneaking in a car. Luckily, they made it through to the border, but they couldn't just drive across the border into Turkey. They had to sneak through the mountains. And he told us about how they had to trek for days through the mountains.
And all of our friends really did this.
Everyone
from
has done
Syria.
this because to get to Turkey, you have to get through the mountains. Or he told us, Lad told us that they had to camp in the woods at night, and they couldn't light a fire.
Because the border
guards would see them
and find them.
So he told us about how cold they were. And
they had to sleep under a pile of leaves. Remember that? They didn't really have blankets, so they made like a pile of leaves and on top of them at night, and then they would like sleep like that to feel warm. Yeah.
And it was really just really strange to hear that. We're like, you know, these movies that you see with like people sleeping in the woods and then a picture with no fire, no like anything, and it was really strange to actually see people in these experiences. And another one, Ali, the one that had the school incident happen to him, he told us about how when he actually had gotten to Turkey, he had to get to the coast because Turkey is like a big country, and they had to get from one side to the other to get to the coast, halfway across the country. And most of the people either walked or took a bus or smuggled through a bus.
Smuggled in
because
cars,
if they got caught
buses.
by the police, they'd be sent back to Syria
Or to a camp.
And they did not want that because they couldn't get out, and then eventually they'd end up back in Syria as the beginning. And so he and his family got on a bus, and they were like trying to hide, and they didn't have tickets, they didn't have any money left, they had nothing, and they were, remember, these are 7 kids and a mom. And so they snuck on a bus, not really snuck, they kind of just went on a bus. And when the ticket guard came in, and they were police guards because they know that refugees do that, come from over there, they come from the border and then go over to the coast. So a border guard, remember the guard came in and checked the bus, and he ended up saying to the family, "Where are your tickets? You should have tickets if you're on this bus." And they didn't know what to say. They're like, "We don't know." And a man that just happened to be on the same bus, he's like, "Oh, it's okay, I'll pay for the tickets." And he ended up paying for the whole family's tickets, because if not, they would have been sent back to Syria. And I remember him telling us that it was very, like, he was like so grateful to this man, but it was just really sad to hear.
And a lot of them, after having to cross through Turkey, so they escape Syria, they get across the border of Turkey. Also, if they're from Iraq or Afghanistan, they have to travel through other countries, then get to Turkey, and then travel through Turkey. And then once they get to the coast, if they want to sort of have a new life, a new free life in the EU, the easiest country, the first country that everyone has been going to is Greece. And the Greek islands. We've traveled a lot through the Greek islands and the coast of Turkey, and they're super close. I mean, you can see, like, if you're in a couple towns in Turkey, you can see the Greek islands, like, across the water. You know, it seems pretty close.
Yeah.
But obviously, they can't just get on a tourist ferry boat like we did. Like we've done quite a few times. They had to sneak illegally. They had to do it with smugglers. And so what many people did, they paid these smugglers, these people, about 1,000 or 2,000 euros a person. And now these are refugees that have lost all of their money, their homes, if they did have money in a bank account, that bank was bombed. Like, there's nothing left for them. And so finding that money and coming up with that money, probably whatever they had left, was very hard for them. And they weren't paying for like a nice boat. These smugglers provided them with just a small, many times just very flimsy and very dangerous rubber inflatable boat. And many times, like, a boat for maybe 10 people would be crammed with 30 or 40, which obviously is, there's a reason they put limits for people. And so that's why many of these boats, as they crossed, would sink. A lot of these people, being from Syria, they were from a certain part of Syria, they had actually never seen the ocean before. Like, especially, obviously not the Aegean Sea, but they hadn't maybe seen a sea at all. And so they didn't know how to swim. Many of them didn't know how to swim. So when they would get into these boats, they knew that, like, if this boat sank, that might be the end. I mean, that they might drown.
They
and
had
in fact,
some,
many people did.
Well, they had life jackets, but sometimes they weren't actually real life jackets.
They were fake.
They were fake, and the smugglers would provide them with fake ones because they were cheaper. And they would actually weigh them down because the smugglers would just stuff them with paper, remember that? And so when they would put them on, all of a sudden they'd start to, they would bring them down.
Yeah, the water would fill up.
And bring them down. So it was, our friends told us about this. And remember, Ale, also one of our friends, he told us how when he was on the boat crossing to go to Greece, a mother and a newborn baby drowned on his boat because the boat started sinking.
The boat sank and they had to swim.
And he said that he was traumatized ever since. I remember even when we took him to the beach,
he was one of the kids that was in the water.
He didn't know how to swim, and he was still just traumatized by it. And I mean, knowing somebody and then just seeing them drown, you can't help them because you don't even know how to swim. And he told us about that with such just despair and sadness. It was just.
And I think especially also knowing these people and just seeing how much they're like us, knowing them as people, knowing their personalities, knowing their characters, and then to hear these stories and to really try and picture them in sort of these situations all the way through. It was so heartbreaking for us and so hard to imagine them like that. And so if they made it to the Greek islands, obviously thousands and thousands did, they would usually stay in one of the camps in the Greek islands, and then they'd be brought up to Athens. But I mean, so many people traveled through the Greek islands. Like in 2015, there were about, I think, 1 million people total went out to Europe, and not just people from Syria. I mean, a lot of friends. We have a lot of friends from Afghanistan as well,
and Iraq and Iran.
And people from Afghanistan have actually traveled the farthest, in terms of territory. And Afghanistan is in a very hard and difficult and bad situation right now. And so many of these people have had to flee the war there as well. And even a lot of our friends have never been there. They grew up in Iran because their grandparents or parents were refugees as well. So Afghanistan has also had a terrible situation. And so many of our friends right now, they're in such a hard situation because a lot of the Syrians are actually going up to Europe. They're starting their new life. So many of our friends right now are going to school or things like that, whereas the people from Afghanistan are not being relocated and they can't claim asylum.
Because they're not considering what's happening in Afghanistan a war. They consider it they're not really considering it a war, and so they're not letting the Afghan people apply for asylum. And so they don't know what to do. I mean, all these families are stuck in Greece now, and they're like, okay, what do we do?
And to travel back to Afghanistan is so far. It's across the continent. I mean, it's not that simple. It's such a hard situation for them as well. Also, people from Iraq, people from Pakistan, people from, sort of North Africa as well, Palestinians, Egyptians, Tunisians. So there were many different nationalities there. So like I said, they would go to the Greek islands, they'd go back up to Athens, and you can take it from there.
So, after they would get to the Greek islands, they would usually take them up on a ferry to Athens. And a lot of the people just wanted to get going, and they just wanted to get to their final destination, which was usually Germany.
And this is 2015.
2015. Yeah. And the border was still open at the time, and that's how all the families...
15 and 16.
Yeah. This was but a lot of these families had fathers, like I said, and older siblings already in Germany, because they had already gone through the open borders, through Greece and then Macedonia, and then Serbia,
and so on and so on.
And so on, all the way up to Germany. and the border was open, and they didn't have any problems really.
Mhm.
But when all these people went up to this camp called Idomeni, and that's where the border would be. And, well, it wasn't supposed to be a camp, but then the border was closed, and everybody was stuck. And they're like,
It's like 10,000 people.
yeah, it was
something
crazy.
like that. Yeah.
A huge number of people were just stuck there, and people kept coming because they thought
They
the
didn't
border was
know.
open, and they're like, okay, let's go up and let's start our trip. And they didn't realize it was closed, and so this makeshift camp started forming in the
Growing
mud
and
growing in just the fields and in the woods, next to the woods, and on this border that everyone kind of thought was the way to freedom, but it turned out to be this awful camp.
Cage.
And it was a cage. Yeah, they weren't free at all, and the police were awful. And our friends tell us about how the police would actually beat them, and how the people would protest against the closed border and the gate being there, and the police would come with start hitting these kids and these
teenagers, even children,
our friends, and and children, anybody. And they said they would tear gas them, but because there was no water really in the camp,
they had no
water.
No water.
They had to put Coca-Cola in their eyes
Yeah,
because it was stinging.
Yeah.
So they had to take the Coca-Cola, pour it in their eyes to get the tear gas out, and they told us how traumatic it was. And not only did they use tear gas on the police, but the police would actually shoot rubber bullets at these kids and families and
women,
children, anybody that would not agree with the police. And it was awful, and our friends would actually show us their rubber bullet scars.
Yeah.
Like, hey, look at my scar. And we're like, that's from a rubber bullet. But you don't really think about that when you just see the pictures of a refugee camp. You just think, oh, it's just a refugee camp. They're getting food. They're being treated by the UN, But it's not like that. And another bad thing about Idomeni was that it was in the winter mainly that all these bad things happened. And it was raining, and it was muddy, and our friends told us the food was very bad. Yeah. And when they did get food, they had to wait in long lines.
There were so many people.
And they just had to wait in lines, and they told us that in the rain. And sometimes they told us about sometimes the police would actually call everybody outside, and they'd literally push them to the ground because they were just mean, and so they didn't listen to what they were saying. If they said, clear out this area, and they didn't listen, and they were like, we don't want to clear out this area. This is our new home. I mean, this is our tent.
This is all we have.
Everything we have. And they would just completely throw people to the ground in the mud, in the rain, and it was just awful in these camps, and I can't even imagine what it was like. Yeah. And this is just this one camp. And
after
everything that they've been through, and they just thought that this was the beginning of their trip, but they didn't realize that they were just stuck. And so some people tried to find their way around, different places in Macedonia. So we have two families that we know very well, and so the two families knew each other from Turkey. They were both from Syria, but they met in Turkey. And they had been through all these experiences together. They had traveled through all these countries together. And they were in Greece and trying to get to Macedonia after they saw Idomeni was closed. So they tried to go through the mountains.
There were 1,000 people.
Yeah,
with a group of
1,000. A huge group of. You've probably seen pictures, maybe, of the people, just crowds of people on the roads just walking, and that's what they had to do. And they were trying to sneak through the woods, and there was a river. And we actually had seen photos of this happening, that they crossed a rope over this river that was really turbulent river, and people were crossing and carrying kids over their heads to try.
The river was super strong.
The river was
people
really strong.
Over.
2 people actually drowned in that river in that day. Time. But we actually saw pictures. We went back and looked at the pictures that we had seen months before. We knew these kids, and we saw our friends in these pictures, and we're like, oh my gosh, that's that person. Yeah, those kids being carried over. And we're like, we know that kid, and we actually saw them in these situations, crossing a river, and they were freezing in the winter, and all they had was a t-shirt on, a short t-shirt, and it was in some volunteers. There were like a couple of volunteers trying to help them because they didn't know what to do, and it was really, it was
weird for us to see. I mean, I remember personally opening up the article on, I forget what it was, The Guardian or something like that, and seeing these pictures of these refugees. I remember talking about it. I remember going, oh my gosh, look what they're doing, look what's happening. And also I remember being so shocked because later they were caught by the police and rounded up. And
beaten.
Actually, one of our good friends was beaten that day by the police for trying to get up and find his family. And then they were later brought back to Greece because we met them in Athens. But I remember seeing these pictures on the news and reading about that exact story of people being beaten and stuff on the news. And it was weird to now put a name to the face, put a personality to the person in the picture. It was really, really strange to see.
We actually also, another one of our friends, Ale, which we kind of said his name a couple times, but there's a picture of him in Idomeni, this awful camp, and he has like blankets wrapped around his head, and we saw his picture on a website once we already had known him, and we're like, oh, that's Ale, and it's a picture of him, and he has cuts on his faces, and like, it's just all
very
like really
sad
messed up.
Picture.
And he has this like these blankets over his head, and he's like freezing, and it's like this really amazing picture, just like showing you the sadness and everything. And we like compared two pictures, and we put that picture, and we put another picture of the Ale that we know, just smiling, happy,
jokester.
He's
prankster, jokester,
so funny.
cheeky.
But seeing the two different personalities of you don't really like think about it when you're seeing these kids all happy, and then all of a sudden you see a picture of them being like so like sad and depressed. It was just really strange to see these two pictures together. But most of the people, after they went to Idomeni, after they tried to go to Macedonia, and they were stopped in Idomeni, they just all were like,
they didn't
know
what to do.
What are we
they had
gonna
been
do?
there for like months
at
like
a time,
3 or 4 months in the mud.
They didn't know whether the border was going to open suddenly and they were going to go through, because sometimes it would open, but for like an hour. So all these families, just imagine a camp of like thousands of people, all of a sudden they hear the border's open, and like
everyone freaks out.
Oh my gosh, and everybody
rushes,
starts running,
runs.
and then they close it. And these people don't know whether to stay, whether to not stay, and think of just the stress of what if the border opens in the middle of the night? What if the people don't let
the
us
family
through?
we know actually, so we're not quite sure what it was. They remember them explaining to us that they had sort of this like number thing. This Ahmed and their family, they had sort of this list, I guess, of who can cross the border at what time at what day. So they were trying to maybe organize the people slowly. So they had this number, and they were called, was it the middle of the night?
Yeah.
Yeah, their number, I guess you can say, was called in the middle of the night. So they were sleeping. They missed it, and so that's why they couldn't cross anymore.
And they were just
told them they couldn't
distraught.
cross.
They were
they
so
barely
sad.
they missed the opening. They had their chance, but it was such a hard situation. So, so they went.
So after Idomeni, everyone just saw how awful it was, and they're like, okay, I give up. We're just going to go back to Athens. So all these people came back to where they were
sort of
in
like,
Athens.
okay, we don't know what to do.
We don't know what to do. They were just going to get like help somewhere. And so everybody started coming back to Athens slowly, and this port started filling up, and it started out with just a couple hundred people, but then it started to slowly fill up because everyone from Idomeni was
coming back
because they didn't like the situation there. So that's kind of where we started volunteering, when everybody started flooding from Idomeni.
Yeah.
That's where our experience in Greece started.
Yeah. So
and this was in April when we came there. But they had all these families and kids have spent the whole winter in Idomeni, which was the worst, like the worst imaginable time to be there in the rain and the mud and the freezing cold. And so, that's where we were at that time. And but it was it was really cool to see that these kids, even though they had such hard times in their lives, and they were going through so much and all this depression and sadness and happiness, and they were kind of bipolar, and they they were all over the place. But
yeah, their emotions were just like a roller coaster.
But even in the sad parts of the day, they still were, they were amazing. They were like really tried to live their life as much as they could. And that's really what inspired, at least me, and I bet you and our charity, really to just enjoy every moment, because you never know what's going to happen. And they were just so kind.
They were such giving people.
It
was amazing.
They were so generous. And to see everything that they've been through and everything that they've experienced, yet they were like the kindest people we've ever met.
I mean, probably more than people.
Oh my gosh.
People in Europe, more than people.
Yeah.
It was on a whole new level of kindness.
Yeah.
I mean, just for us personally, like as volunteers or as friends, just from everything. Like we would get to know a kid, let's say, for a couple days. We'd play with them. We'd talk to them. And all of a sudden one day they just show up and be like, I have a present for you. Or here I made this drawing. Here I made this bracelet. I made this necklace. I mean, these are children that have like nothing. I mean, they walk around with no shoes on because they had no shoes. One shoe yes, one shoe no. I mean, it was cold and they had like a t-shirt with like holes in it and dirty because they had nothing else to wear. And these are kids. So these kids with nothing were giving us whatever they had. Sometimes they'd give us things that were even from Syria, certain bracelets. I mean, I've got my bracelets on now from these kids.
But, like, our mom, they call her Mama Gina, because her name's Gina, and Mama is, like, mother, so they call her Mama Gina! And all the kids love Mama Gina. Her mom is, like, she's, like, I don't know, she's, like, a figure, like a persona, like, this person that just spreads joy and is, like, you know, this, like, bringer of, like, the happiness, you know, and it was so funny because these moms and these kids would just, like, come up to her and they'd be like, oh, wow, hi, how are you? And they just come hug her, and she'd be like, oh, hi, you know, and then, you know, she's like, oh, yeah, how are you? And she's like, hi, I'm this person's mom, I love you so much. Yeah. I love you too. But it was so cute because I remember this one time
they were so kind.
They were so kind, and this one family invited us into their tent, which was like their home, and that's kind of what you do. They invite you into their home. Yeah. They give you tea, and I remember my mom, Mama Gina, commented on how pretty this lady's wedding ring was, and she said, "Oh, your wedding ring is so pretty. It's so pretty." Just to compliment her because she wanted her to know that she thought it was so, you know, so pretty. And she's like, oh, you like it? Here, take it. Take it. And she actually was like, no, I don't want your wedding ring. And she's like, no, take it seriously. And she's like, no, I will not take that. And she's like, please, it's for helping you help me and my family and my kids. And I just want to thank you. And she's like, I'm not going to take your wedding ring, okay? And she's like, fine, okay. So I'll give you tea instead. Yeah. But it was just, it showed so how kind they were.
Yeah, I mean, we like, when we were volunteering at the port, we probably went into, like, maybe 2 tents average a day.
A day.
Because a lot of times the parents of the kids that we were playing with for days and days and months, they would see us and they would immediately invite us in. We'd be walking around the camp. Sometimes we were really busy.
Yeah, we're like
they'd still just come. And so we'd take off our shoes to, pay respect, and we'd take off our shoes, we'd get into the tent with them, which was like their home, and we'd sit there, we'd have tea, we'd have coffee, fruit, cookies, anything imaginable, and we'd sometimes spend hours in there just talking. It's such a fun experience to get to know, like, to really see the culture of Syria still in them and still in this camp, and that even though they've lost everything, it's like you can see Syria
they're carrying on their
them.
legacy and their country. Yeah, that's what they used to say sometimes. The kids would be like, I have Syria in me, and we'd be like, do you miss your country? And they'd say, well, Syria it's in us. We are Syria. Us, this generation, these families, these people are Syria, because their country might be in ruins, but these people will carry on the legacy of their country. And I remember always hearing that and just, like, being so amazed because they were so proud of their country and just so proud to be Syrian or Afghan or Iraqi, and they were just so proud of who they were, or Kurdish, or Yeah, and also they were not only just so kind, but they would just I don't know how to explain it. It was like they would, everything that they had to share with you.
Mm-hmm.
So they would get like
Ramadan.
Food. Ramadan. So Ramadan is the big
holiday.
Muslim holiday that goes on for
fasting.
a month long fasting.
Mm-hmm.
So we would always be in the
from
camps.
sunrise to sunset.
From sunrise
fasting.
to sunset, they'd fast.
Yeah.
So no eating, no water, and then when the sun went down, they could finally
have
eat.
a big feast.
They'd have a big feast.
Yeah.
And we were hard workers, so we'd stay there from in the camps from 10 in the morning till usually till the night.
Yeah.
And usually we didn't stay that late in the camps, but once Ramadan started, everyone was begging us to stay.
Everyone was out
because
having
dinner because
after sunset.
Because the families and the moms and all these kids would prepare their meals the whole day because they knew that at sunset they could eat this huge meal and
traditional
food. And so they would always beg us to stay, and we'd have to switch tents. We had 5
one tent
one at a time.
We'd split up.
We would walk out of the camps full. Oh, I had so much Arabic food.
They would invite us in. I mean, they would take a lot of time. They'd go out of the camp to a supermarket if they could find one. They'd get the food, prepare it on the little burners or stuff that they had, and they would just be so honored to share with us their food. So
their culture.
Sometimes they would make a little space, they'd put 4 or 5 tents in a circle and then put blankets out on the ground in the middle. And so all the different families would come together in sort of this social space surrounded by the tent, so kind of protected. And eat and stuff, and so we'd go and we'd eat with them and just chat for hours, and they were singing and dancing sometimes.
Yeah, they would do the Arabic style dancing.
Yeah, the Arabic.
It was dancing.
Yeah.
But they were just, especially in that time, and they were just so generous. And I remember during the day, because the kids sometimes, not everyone has to fast. The kids can decide whether or not to, but I remember the kids just being really tired at the end of the day, and then we would come to their tent and I'm not tired, you have to come to my tent. They were just, so generous. But it really showed us that we are so lucky, and that they showed us compassion, and that to really see the world through different eyes.
Yeah, we've learned, I think that whole month in Greece, it changed them, and I gotta mention something about that, but it also, like you were saying, really, really changed us. Not only did it sort of give us focus on what to do with the charity and sort of our life's mission and all that type of stuff, but like you said, I think we see the world completely differently now. Just thinking of how is it that there's kids that are the same age and they're experiencing all of this stuff, and they're just going through so much, and yet they're so compassionate. They're so kind. Compassionate towards us. Brought us in, as a family. They had no idea who we were. Some of these families we knew for months. They knew us well, but other families know, and they would just bring us in into their home. They'd give us things, just make us feel so welcome and just so appreciated. And that really taught us, it's amazing. They were so kind. It taught us the true meaning of generosity, I guess is what I'm saying. It showed us what it really is to be kind, to give without expecting anything in return. And I think that's one of the big things, but also it changed them. So it was sort of this double, I think, that the months, sort of with all the soccer games, the English classes, the friendships, there were these kids that, before, like you said, wanted to take their lives, a lot of our really close friends. Now, they're so different. The end of those months, they were they weren't really talking about their pasts anymore. They were talking about, okay, I'm going to go to Germany, I'm going to get an education. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to do something with my life. I'm going to become, so many of them want to become doctors, dentists, engineers, lawyers, writers, heart surgeons.
Actually, a friend that had the school accident happen to him, It was so cute because he told us one day I want to become a heart surgeon. And we asked, why a heart surgeon? He was so like set on this idea of becoming a heart surgeon. And he said, it's because I want to fix all the broken hearts in Syria. And that was like...
That made me cry.
broken hearts in Syria because he experienced the pain and the sadness in his country. And heart surgeon, he thought that it represented fixing hearts, fixing everything that happened. And that was really powerful what he said.
Yeah, and I think another thing that we really realized was that that kids, teens, and youth, we really are all the same.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when we were hanging out with these kids, we felt like there was no difference between us. I mean, of course, yes, there was the language barrier sometimes, and we would use Google Translator.
Oh, yeah.
We would try to speak Arabic or Kurdish or find a translator, things like that. But apart from that, I think we realized we were all the same, that it didn't really matter. We came from such different backgrounds with different languages, different religions. Yeah. We were so different at the beginning. But when it came down to our personalities, our dreams, and who we are as people, we were the same. We really,
Yeah, and especially us kids all just came together. And we have a little brother, and he would just love these kids. He had little friends that were his same age. He's 8, and all these little boys used to get together and like play together and just like, you know, do fun stuff together. But it didn't matter because it didn't matter if they had the language barrier or if they were a different religion or if they were from a different country. It didn't matter because they connected on like a friendship. It was on a deeper level, and it's a bond that I don't think can ever be replaced.
Yeah, I mean, and also talking about this, like, I think we realized how important it is for youth to get out there into the world and to see other youth, to meet other kids from different cultures, but also that we can make a difference.
Yeah.
I mean, so many times it was like, oh, what are you doing? You're so young. How could you possibly make a difference in a refugee camp or different things like that? Sort of these inside voices sometimes we have ourselves. But at the end of this whole experience, we realized how we could make a difference and that we weren't too young to do something, not only to change just a situation or a camp at the time, but just individual people's lives. And we didn't realize how friendship and just sort of inspiration, education, learning English, things like that could bring so much joy to people's lives. So we realized how youth can make a difference.
And this is our charity
sort of where the charity now came from.
Yeah, it's called Kids Unite for Hope, and that's mainly what everything is about in Kids Unite for Hope. It's all just about kids making a difference to help other kids and to help people by spreading the word of, not only word, but of friendship and spreading this joy throughout.
Yeah, of raising awareness. Raising awareness about getting together, volunteering, taking action, and showing that youth can make a difference. So that's all of sort of these concepts that we have now in our charity, and that we, you know, our goal to bring forward and through our lives and stuff came from these sort of realizations that we could make a difference. So this definitely, Greece was a moving experience for us, sort of the foundation of everything. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so it was just, that was the best experience of my life. That's literally like the best ever. And it's really changed me as a person, and it's really, it's been amazing. Okay, so we have a few questions that a lot of people have asked us when we tell them our story, and we've talked about, like, to people, we've told our story in schools and like and other projects and to just people that we meet. And these are some questions that they've always asked us. And so we're just going to read each other the questions and kind of answer them.
See if we can...
see if we can nail them down. Okay, so question number 1. What did they eat and where did they live inside the camps?
Okay, should I respond to that one?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so where did they live? In the camps in the camp that we worked in the port, which actually isn't there anymore because they were moved, they would live in tents. So I don't really know how to explain it. I guess you can say camping tents.
Yeah, camping
It's
tents.
like small camping tents that are usually meant for like 1 or 2 people. But at the time they would cram in like even 4 or 5 different people. And a lot of the teenagers wouldn't sleep at the tents at all. Actually, when it was warmer, they would just sleep outside.
Yeah.
I mean, they had nowhere to go. They would just sleep outside on blankets if they had them anywhere they could find. And also in the port, in E1 was the section of the port we were in, there was sort of the building that used to be like the ticket office for the ferries that were there at the port. But it sort of was a makeshift sort of housing shelter for these refugees. So they would sleep inside. And it was just a big open room. It wasn't meant, obviously, to be a place for shelter. And so there were just hundreds of people in that same big open hall. And they were just blankets after blankets of people just sitting and sleeping. They had no personal space whatsoever. Yeah. So that was sort of the living conditions. And what did they eat? So the majority of the time they ate food that was provided for them by different charities. I'm not quite sure which ones they were, but there were quite a few. And the food that we saw them eating came in pretty much little containers, and sometimes it was actually quite good.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's actually
we've
good.
eaten the port food before, but the majority of the meals were either just rice, or pasta, or macarona, as they say. But a lot of times it was out of date, wasn't the best quality. And we learned later that they many times brought the refugees leftovers from other things, and not food that was fresh. So it was food from days before, and so that's why many times people got sick. That one time, I think it was raw chicken, wasn't it? There was chicken, and part of it was raw, and they fed it to the whole camp one night after we left. And we got there the next morning, and a lot of our friends were missing, and we're like, well, where'd they go? And actually 200 people had been brought to the hospital that night because they were all so sick from this chicken. So there were experiences like that where we realized the food was very hard, and a lot of the kids wouldn't even eat the food. They would starve for like a day because, I mean, the food, you get food and it's moldy, you won't eat it, especially these families were used to incredible Syrian food, and they can cook incredible meals
really
that we know now. So, that's mainly what they ate.
Okay,
All right.
question number 2.
This is for you. Okay. How did you communicate with all the kids in the camp?
Okay, how did we communicate? Well, a lot of the kids spoke English, and at first we didn't know how they learned English because they were actually pretty good. They could communicate. They could make a full sentence, or they could just be like, water, I want water. Or like, jump rope, I want jump rope. And we learned that they had learned their English from volunteers like us. So we would talk to them in English, and and they would just like slowly catch on. They didn't even know they were catching on to the English language, but they
sort of had to.
They had to, I guess, to get what they wanted. They wanted to ask a volunteer, can I have a t-shirt? My mom needs some shoes or something. And they had to ask them in English or in Greek, because a lot of the kids spoke Greek, even when they spoke English. And we tried to communicate also through Arabic.
Yeah, we started learning Arabic.
The Arabic,
and Farsi,
which is the language they speak in Afghanistan. And Kurdish is for the Kurdish people. But yeah, mainly English. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Question number 3. What games did you play with the children?
You can answer that one.
The games that we played with the children. Okay. Well, we usually played, like I said, jump rope, tag, freeze tag, soccer, volleyball. What other games were there? Duck, duck, goose.
Yeah,
that
one. Goose was a big one.
They were like, duck, goose. And then the little kids would like start running, and they don't know where
they
they're
didn't know what
running.
they were saying.
They were like, duck, duck, goose, and then just run. It was really funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, we played those games.
Yeah. Let's see. Next one. Did they have mobile phones? That's a good.
Everyone
average.
Everyone had a phone.
Laptops, iPads. Yeah. No, they were. I mean, a lot of the families that we know were very well off. even wealthy families. Like some of our friends even had like owned a factory. They owned a full-on factory. Had 3 homes, tons of cars. I mean, they were like
just
very wealthy, and everything just
people.
They kind of lost everything. So yeah, everyone mobile phones are also the only way that they could connect with the people that were traveling. A lot of them had like if they were in Greece, they had family members still in Turkey that were trying to cross, family members throughout Europe traveling, and they needed to communicate. They also needed to research where they were supposed to go.
Also, they loved Facebook and WhatsApp and Instagram. They're such big social media people. And so as soon as you meet like a new kid or like a new mom or something, you'd be like, oh, do you have Facebook? And that's like the first thing. Do you have Facebook? Because it's like a
Facebook
like a friendship. It was like a connection. Like so you could write them, and because they didn't really know how to communicate in English, so they'd go into Google Translate and text you and be like, hi, how are you? Like heart, lots of hearts, like always heart. And they would always text and post stuff on Facebook. But so social media was very big for them. And mobile phones.
All right. Let's see. Which countries did they want to go to, and how are they relocated? That is definitely a good question because it's a
complicated
process. But generally, so the countries they want to go to, the majority of the people we know, it's Germany.
Yes.
Germany is
a dream.
Yeah, the big kind of. It is. It's and a lot of their family members are there. But Germany sort of symbolizes for them new life.
Freedom.
So definitely Germany, but I think there's lots of people that want to go to Norway. There's Austria. We have friends in Austria.
Spain,
there's people
Portugal.
in Spain, people in Portugal, Netherlands, even some in the UK.
Yeah.
Where they want to go to the UK. But the relocation process is pretty complicated from what we saw. But
the Greeks don't really help with
it's very confusing. But generally, so if they had a family member or like a parent in a European country, the family would be processed pretty fast and eventually brought there like through family reunification. Because many times there were mothers stuck with their kids in these camps for a long time, and so that was a pretty hard situation for them. Whereas other times, if the families were all together, sort of the mom and dad, the kids, and so on, it's a lot harder for them. It was a lot harder for them because they would have to wait on longer. They were on the list, longer lists, and they weren't, I guess, the top priority.
Yeah.
So for the relocation, they would ask where they wanted to go. They had a couple options or whatever. But many times it was just sort of random, and they didn't get a lot of notice. Some of our friends, like, they were in Athens. They had an apartment. And all of a sudden they were told, okay, you're going to Spain in a couple days. Pack your bags.
Yeah, they had plane tickets and everything. And they were like, what do? We don't have suitcases. We don't have anything. And they just had stuff.
They'd never been on a plane before.
Yeah, but it was, for them, it was really great. Okay, next question. What was your favorite experience?
We can both say that's hard. Okay, you go first. Okay. I can't think of any.
I think my favorite experience was seeing the kids' joy when they played soccer, and when we played these like soccer games and play music and have these like dance parties at the same time after like the game was over.
No, that was mine too. I stole it. Okay, we're talking about it.
Okay, and so these dance parties and just seeing the whole day was like kind of fun because
it's like a summer camp.
Yeah, it was like a summer camp because first the kids play soccer. You have like a schedule. Like first you play soccer, then you do dance party after, and everyone just kind of volleyball games. And just seeing everyone kind of come together and just have fun, and we dance, we put on like Arabic music, and then we put on our music, and they'd be like, oh, cool music, and we'd teach them kind of how to dance, and just seeing everyone kind of get together, and there were so many other volunteers that also contributed to all the work that we've done.
Yeah.
They would just, they were like amazing, and they would help out with everything, and one of our friends would do this like funny dance, and all the little kids would like copy her, and they'd do this little dance, but it was really cute because that's probably my favorite experience.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the same for me. There was a certain time when we were there when the kids, it was amazing to see just sort of this change in them. They just looked, they were so happy and having so much fun and having sort of all these activities, a volleyball tournament, then, okay, let's all go drink tea, now let's all, go play soccer, now let's do dancing, now let's sing, now let's, all these different things, these experiences of seeing the kids so happy after everything they've been through.
Yeah.
That was definitely, very rewarding experience, I think. Definitely on our part, just to see these kids' happiness, the happiness that they were feeling.
Yeah, that was great. Okay, last question.
Oh.
What was your favorite part about volunteering?
Volunteering, like
generally.
General volunteering.
I think. Yeah, generally.
Favorite thing.
I think seeing,
I don't know. Let's see. I think really, seeing how these people are so similar to us, the most, not mind-blowing, but I guess you can say mind-blowing thing for me was seeing how, even though, so many countries, so many people, and sort of some of the media around the world globally portrays refugees one way, when in reality they're such giving people, and they're so kind, and they love Facebook, they love social media, they love laughing, telling jokes, dancing, singing, things that we love to do. They're no different than us. I think the most amazing thing about volunteering for me is seeing these different people and everything they've been through and how similar they are. I think for me that's one of the things. What about you?
I think trying to empower these kids to live up to their full potential, to follow their dreams, because a lot of these kids don't get the opportunity to follow their dreams, and I liked inspiring them to do whatever their heart was telling them to do, and to just follow their dreams,
and seeing them change,
and seeing how first they were kind of I guess not really enthusiastic about their future. They didn't really know what they wanted to do, and after you give them we gave them a little push, kind of inspiration, and hope, and that's what
hope.
We're really
That's
all about
our word.
hope, and really just seeing their dreams kind of slowly coming together, because now these kids are finally going to their next home, and they're going to school again, and they're finally,
so many of our friends are in school now.
Yeah, they're in school, and they're maybe on their soccer team that they've always wanted to soccer teams in new schools, and just seeing them finally achieve their dreams, and I can't wait to see what they're gonna do when they're older, just to follow their, have jobs and dreams and everything.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that was a good talk.
Yeah.
So our charity is Kids Unite for Hope. So you can find us at kidsuniteforhope.org. And we would love for you to get involved. We really just want youth to come together as youth, make a difference in the world, raise awareness about causes that we're all passionate about. So please see the website, and we'd love for you to get involved. And thank you so much for listening about the refugee crisis.
Thank you. Bye.
If we want to change the world, we must first change the media. Mainstream media exists for the purposes of indoctrination and manipulation of public perception. The world of free and independent media is growing, and with the upsurge in information now available in the public domain, it has never been easier to access free and independent media. The exploration of this information resulted in an experimental project which would provide a fully supported space for researchers, whistleblowers, and seekers of all kinds to express themselves and educate the world. On the 1st of January 2015, Conscious Consumer Network was launched to the world. Nobody thought we would make it this far, but CCN is the longest running free and independent media network of its kind. CCN is a unique collaboration of hearts and souls, bringing you information from different perspectives to educate and inform. Since we started CCN, we have had only one desire: the pursuit of a free, fair, just, sustainable world, and this has not changed. Having overcome many challenges over the last 2 years, CCN is here to stay, and we've got great things lined up for 2017. Help keep CCN on the air by supporting the 2017 Network Support Fund.